So hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Now I woke up and chose violence. The title is very suggestive as I did wake up an hour ago and I played this game, and now I want to present it to you because it's a pretty violent game actually. So we have e4 by my opponent, and I respond with e5. So knight f3, knight f6, going for the Petrov. But my opponent here plays knight c3, and we transpose to the 4 knights. So we have knight c6, and now my opponent tries the Spanish variation with bishop b5, and bishop c5 or bishop b4 are the classical responses, but I like to play the Rubinstein counter gambit in this position. And the idea of the Rubinstein is that if my opponent were to take this pawn, then I would have had this queen e7, and now you have to be really careful. Now if you retreat with the knight, then knight takes on b5, you have to capture, and now queen takes on e4. Queen e2, queen takes on e2, king takes on e2, and knight e5. Of course, this has been played before. Black defends this c7 pawn, and white cannot castle, but I mean it's an okay position. Anyways, there is a fight, so I did not mind going into this variation. But after this knight d4, my opponent played bishop c4, and in my opinion this bishop c4 kind of loses a tempo. Of course it's a fine move, it has been played a lot of times, but it just allows bishop c5. And now I am setting up a trap, and you will see. So we have knight takes on e5, and now the best move definitely is to castle, and this is the way to go. But castling, white castles, I go d6, knight back to f3, bishop g4, now bishop e2, knight takes on e2, queen takes on e2, and we have this position where there's a lot of play to happen, but I did not necessarily enjoy this position. So after this knight takes on e5, I am sacrificing yet another pawn. I play d5, and now white can take this pawn a lot of ways. So white can take this pawn with the knight, with the bishop, and with the pawn. So, but with taking with the knight is not that good, because after knight takes, and now you pretty much cannot play bishop takes on d5 because of this queen g5, and now you attack the knight, and you cannot retreat with the knight, because if you retreat with the knight, then you lose the g2 pawn. So here you have to play either castles or g3. So let's say you play castles, but now simply bishop h3, not even taking the knight. Bishop h3, g3, and only now taking the knight. So again, there are a lot of traps that can happen in this position, but my opponent here, after this d5, he went for e takes d5. And if you're wondering what happens if you take with the bishop, then simply knight takes d5, knight takes d5, and now castles, rook e8, knight d3, attacking the bishop, bishop d6, rook e1, and after this c6 move and knight c3, here you can play either knight c3 or knight e3, but this is an equal position. I maybe can start an attack potentially with queen g5, but white is fine. White is fine in this position. Basically with this d5 move, I wanted to get the bishop pair, or if I didn't get the bishop pair, to get an attack. But my opponent played e takes on d5, and now I went for queen e7. My opponent went for castles. I also castled because of course you cannot take the knight, because if you take the knight, then simply rook e1, and there's no way to not lose, to save the queen. So we have castles by me, and now rook e1 to defend the knight. We have knight to g4, and this is very interesting. So here when I played knight to g4, I calculated that here he could have taken with the knight, and then I could have taken with the bishop, and now of course you cannot take the bishop because it's simply queen takes on e1, bishop f1, and you know, you just lose the exchange, and this position is very, very bad. So here, after this bishop takes on g4, we would have seen rook takes on e7, bishop takes on d1, and after rook takes on c7, we would have seen rook f to e8. This is the key move, because this forces bishop f1, because of course in this position, if you take the bishop, then it's simply rook e1 check. You have to block the only move, and now bishop e2. And of course you cannot take the bishop, because if you take the bishop, then it's simply mate into king h1, and rook takes on f1 will be mate. So here, you know, after this bishop e2, maybe a move like h4, and bishop takes on f1. But I mean, you know, my opponent did not go for all of this, so it makes no sense to analyze everything that could have been played. So let's go back to our position. After knight g4, we have d6 now by my opponent, and here of course I could have went out and played a move like queen h4 and attacked, you know. Then he would have been forced to take the knight. Bishop takes on g4, and now rook e4, and bishop takes on g6, and now attacking the h2 pawn. But after, you know, h3, you have to take the queen, and after oops, sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that. Here spoiled the position. h3, bishop takes on g4, rook takes on h4, and now knight f5 attacking the rook back to e4, and bishop takes on c2. Everything is fine, but you know, my opponent did not go for this. So let's see what my opponent went for in the game. We have sorry, what I went for in the game. So we have c takes on d6 now, and now we have a pretty bad move, knight takes on f7. A better move was to take the knight, because what I calculated is that bishop takes on g4 would happen, and we would run in the same variation. But now, after this knight takes d5, I calculated that, okay, I have d5, but what I missed is that he had rook c7 and bishop b6, but then he would have taken the pawn here first, and now the engine suggests very interesting variation. We have knight to c2, bishop takes d5, knight takes a1, rook takes f7, rook takes, and now bishop takes on a8. And we would have gotten this position where white has bishop and 3 pawns for the rook. Definitely a lot to be played, but you know, we did not go for this. But this knight to f7 is really, I think, the first blunder. And by the way, guys, this is a rapid game, so my opponent is gonna get low on time and play some bad moves, because, you know, I had a pretty good clock management this game. So we have bishop e6 now, and here my opponent had an option. He could have continued the attack, sacking not an exchange, because here I cannot take the rook. I mean, I can take the rook, but this would have allowed simply queen takes on g4, and now you cannot take this knight, because then simply queen takes on e6, queen takes, and then bishop takes, and now the rook is pinned. So here, after this rook e6, you had to go for queen takes on f7, and now rook e7, but queen takes on c4, queen takes on g4, and the position is fine. I mean, rook f7 is the only move that, of course, defends mate. Rook takes on f7, queen takes on f7, and there's again a lot to be played for here. But instead of that, we have, after bishop e6, we have knight takes on h6 with check, the best move according to the engine. And here, I mean, I simply took the knight, because there's no other move. And here my opponent should have taken this bishop, because you have to take this bishop. Otherwise, after this d3, move, this is a natural move, opening up the bishop, but this is losing. This is losing because of queen h4. But I did not go for queen h4 yet. I don't know why. I went here in this position, I went for b5, you know, thinking that he cannot capture this pawn. You know, I wanted to be a flashy game, sacrifice pawns and stuff, but Here he simply took the bishop now, and the position is equal after knight takes on e6. Here is the mistake that he does. He plays rook e2, and now the game is completely lost. Here, after this knight takes on e6, he should have played d4, and again this would be an interesting game. Bishop takes d4, queen takes d4, knight takes d4, rook takes e7. Now knight h to f5. The pawn structure is very weird. White is up a pawn, but there are constant threats against the c2 pawn, and here, you know, after, let's say, rook e4, you could go for perhaps knight takes on c2, rook b1, and rook a to e8, for example, trading rooks. There are a lot of possibilities, but this position was not reached in the game. Knight takes on e6, rook e2, and now simply my opponent will get destroyed. I played queen h4 now with an attack, and here my opponent blundered very bad. He played rook takes on e6. I mean, the position is lost anyways. You can perhaps try to play something like bishop takes on h6, bishop takes on f2 with check, king h1, and queen takes on h6, but I mean it's just not a great position for white. But he would have still been in the game. I mean, in this position he played rook takes on e6, and now there's a beautiful mate in 3. Hopefully all of you can find this, so I'm gonna of course let you a couple of seconds to find this mate in 3. It's very simple. It's a Lichess pattern. We have queen takes on f2 with check, the only move king h1, and now queen f1 with check. The only move is to capture with the queen, and now we capture with the rook, and it's checkmate. So I think this game was pretty enjoyable. I think this move here, d5, was pretty interesting. You know, sacrificing a second pawn, and yet I was able to win the game. And this was kind of a miniature, as this was played only in 18 moves, but there's a lot to be learned, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Kowalski out.